Hi guys, this is the lead gen from Google API automation. Now this works by utilizing Google Maps and finding Google businesses. Then it's going to take all of those businesses, scrape the websites of them, and from those websites extract email addresses and compile all of that into a spreadsheet. So technically they're not leads because at this stage they haven't expressed any interest, so I suppose they're more like contacts. But if you do a lot of cold outreach, this is a really fantastic way to get access to lots of email addresses. Now one thing I would say is make sure that you are following any privacy regulations where you live, so whether that be GDPR or wherever you're based. I know California have some rules, so depending on where you live, don't go ahead and add these email addresses to a mailing list or whatnot. This is purely designed mainly for cold outreach. So let's walk through how this scenario works, and then after that we're going to go through each module one by one as always, and we're going to help fill in all of the settings on each individual module. So the first step here is creating a spreadsheet. So every time we run this automation, we're going to get a brand new spreadsheet. After that, we have this Google Maps module. Now this is going to search for places however you like. So you can search by location. You can just essentially do a Google search and it's going to find businesses and places that match those requirements. With this HTTP module, we're going to scrape the website. So it's just going to visit the website, scrape it, and get all of the data. Now we have add a row to a Google Sheet. So this is going to add the business name and the URL to the website, to the Google Sheet, sorry. Now we're going to wait till all of that process is completed with a kind of clever filter here, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Then we have search row. So this is going to go through each row one by one, and it's going to visit the URL inside of that spreadsheet, which is going to be the website URL of the business. Here we're going to take the HTML that this returns, because when it visits the website and sends the website data, it's going to return it all in HTML, which is obviously lots of information that we don't need. So this text parser is going to take the HTML, turn it into text. Then we have a match pattern, which uses something called a regex to extract only the email addresses out of the text, and then it's going to add the email addresses here to the Google Sheet. Now this is a kind of an error handler down here, so if it visits a website and it pulls back an error like it can't access the site or the site doesn't exist, rather than stopping the automation, it's going to just ignore that and proceed with the next one. So I'm going to go into more detail. This is obviously a slightly more complex automation than a lot of the others that we've done so far. So I'm going to walk you through everything step by step, and hopefully things will be quite clear by the time we're done. So the first module here is to create a Google spreadsheet. This one's super easy. We just need to connect our Google Sheets account. You've probably already done this. If not, you can press the add button, sign in with Google, and then we're done. Then we're going to come down and create a name for the Google Sheet. So in this case, we've just called it Website Scrape, but you can call it anything you like. Next up, we have the Google Maps module. Now this one's a tad more complicated because we need to go and enable the Google Maps API first. So in order to do that, we need to make sure we visit console.cloud.google.com. Make sure you're signed into your Google account. If you haven't created any projects here within the cloud, you need to make sure that you create a project. So they will ask you to enter probably some billing details when you create your project. You get lots and lots of free credits, free trials, and certainly to try this out. I think I've probably tested this automation 20 or 30 times. I still haven't been charged at all for the use of this API. You can check the pricing, of course, on the website to make sure that it's going to work for you, but the costs are, to be honest, fairly minimal for this kind of small level of API use. So once you've created your first project, we need to come over and we need to select APIs and services, and we need to go to the library. And we're going to search here. Well, I can actually see it down here. It says Places API. But if you cannot see Places API, you can just go ahead and search for it here via the search block. We're going to take Places API here. Yours, once you click on it, mine says Manage because it's already enabled. Yours will say Enable. And then what we need to do is enable the API and take our API key. Once we've got that and we've copied the API key, we're going to come back into Make, open up this module, and we just click the add button here to add our connection. We pop in the API key, and now we are ready to go. Now we have different ways that we can find places here. I've gone for text search. So in this example, I'm searching for marketing agency in London. Now obviously that's going to go and search London for marketing agencies around London. You can be more specific here. You can say you want independent flower shops in, I don't know, and be very specific with the location. But you can also actually do a nearby search. So if you want to put in local businesses within your area, you can put in a latitude and longitude, add a radius. There's a lot of details that you can pop in here, and you can also just select a type of business here. So for example, they have a long list of accounting, amusement parks, banks, bars, lots and lots of businesses here. So if you wanted to search purely on a locational basis, you can do it that way. I'm going to keep text search for this example. We're going to look for marketing agencies in London, and at the bottom here, this is the number of businesses that you want to find. So you can set this. I'm not sure what the limit is, to be honest. I tested it up to about 90 and it seemed to work fine. We're going to go ahead in this example. We're just going to use 50, and I'm going to show you how it works. One thing to bear in mind with this automation is it does use a lot of operations from Make.com. So when you run this, it's going to use, we'll see at the end how many it uses, but it's a fairly significant amount of operations. However, the potential outcomes of this, obviously having contacts and leads that could, potentially make you thousands of dollars, means that the few pennies or few dollars that you spend on the operations here could well be a good investment. So just be aware of that, and we'll look at it at the end and see how many operations this actually takes. Next up, we have this HTTP module. Now, the reason we have this is because the output here from the Google Maps API doesn't actually output the URL of the website, which is obviously very important to this scenario working. So what we do is we then have another HTTP request. Now we need to quickly create a connection to Google Maps here. We don't need anything more than our API key, which we've already input to this Google Maps module. So make sure you copy your API key again. Then we're going to go ahead and click Add. You can name this whatever you like, probably call it Google Maps or Google Places API. You paste in your API key here, and in this parameter name, we need to type key, and then we click Create. So we have key in the API parameter name, we have our API key pasted in this box, and we can name it whatever we like. The URL should already be in there for you. So this is the URL that we're going to access with that API connection in order to get the details about the business that it's found. Everything else should be filled in. These are the query strings. So this is what it's actually asking the details for from the API. So it's giving the place ID, which is the business place ID to identify the business. That's coming from the Google Maps. Under fields, we're requesting name. We're also requesting website, and then we actually need to input our API key one more time via these queries. So we type in key and make sure you've pasted in your API key in this box at the bottom. That's everything done from this module. So we go ahead and click OK. Next, we have add a row. Now this one's really simple. We just connect our Google Sheets account. Select the spreadsheet via the spreadsheet ID of the spreadsheet we created. This should already be done for you, so you shouldn't have to worry about this. And then we're going to enter these two values. So column A is going to be the name, so that's the name of the business, and column 2 is going to be the website. So we're going to end up with a spreadsheet that has the name of a business in column A and the website of the business in column B. Next, we have a filter here, because Google Sheets, when it adds a row, is going to add many rows, and then the process is going to continue before these have finished, and it's going to basically completely mess up the flow of the scenario. So here's the filter that we've added. Remember, to add a filter at any point, you can right click on the path and then just click set up a filter. Now what we've done is we've labeled this completed. So what we're going to do here is make sure that the number of rows, so we've selected row number from this module here, numeric operator, so the number is equal to the total number of bundles from here. So the reason that this works is this is not going to proceed to the next stage until as many rows have been added as the total number of businesses that were provided from Google Maps. Okay, so by matching these two, the number of rows added and the number of bundles, which is essentially going to be the number of businesses in this case, we know that the process won't continue until this is put in all of the data. Now this will already be filled in for you. I just wanted to explain it there for you. Next, we need search rows, because we're going to go ahead and access that data or the URLs from that data, and then we're going to scrape the website. So inside search rows, make sure you've added your connection. Now the spreadsheet ID is going to be the spreadsheet ID of the spreadsheet that we've created. Now the sheet name here also comes from the first module, the create a spreadsheet module, and this just enables us to specify the sheet of the spreadsheet that we're going to go ahead and search. Now everything else should be already completed here for you. Next we have HTTP make a request. This is a very, very easy module to set up. All we need to do is specify the URL that we're going to search. So in this case, we click in here. It's already input, but we would click in here and we would find the column where we're going to input the URL. So you can see it will be column B, because that's what we specified, the column, where the URL would go. So URL is the URL from the spreadsheet, and everything else is just left blank. I'll quickly take you down this error handler here, because when I was doing some testing, sometimes it would come up with an error if the website was inaccessible for some reason. So in order to add an error handler to one of your scenarios, one of your automations, we can do that down in tools. The one I use the most often is ignore. So if there's an error, I want it to ignore. So we simply click that, and then we can connect it to the module that we want to handle that error for, and then we put a filter in. So I've added the ignore module, and then the filter that I put in here was error type, and then I put in the name of the error. So when we ran this through once, I was getting this bundle validation error. We can click in here, and in fact you can see the errors here. So the condition for something to pass down this path is that the error type was called bundle validation error, and I just manually typed that in. Now you can of course add various different error handlers to this. If you happen to see a different error come up, you can go ahead and do something similar and add additional error handlers. So if that problem arises, all it will do is ignore it and still continue along with the scenario. Next we have a text parser. Now this is going to take all of the data from the HTTP module. So this is going to come out as as HTML code. We don't want that. That's lots of unnecessary text. All we need is the actual legible text content. So we just clicked in this box and I selected the data. As you can see here, this was an example of what was coming out. This will be pre-filled, but that's how we set it up. Next up, from the text parsing menu here, we added a match pattern module. Now this is going to find a string or a fixed pattern, which is called a regex or a regular expression, within text or within HTML, and it's going to output anything that matches that pattern. Now this may look like rather complicated or lots of jumbled up characters, but to be honest with you, the way that I managed to find this regex, all I did, I went to ChatGPT and I said, can you give me a regex to extract email addresses from text? And it says, yep, this is the regex. So all I did was I copied the regex that ChatGPT gave me and I popped it in this box. Now if you look closely, you can see it's basically identifying the possible variations of characters, and then we have the @ here, we have another selection of variation of characters and the dot, and another selection of a kind of variation of characters. So anything that matches that pattern, which is going to form an email address, so something @ something dot something, it's going to pull those out. Now you can create regexes for whatever you like. If you want to pull out something from text, or if you want to pull out some details from HTML, ChatGPT is really good at creating these for you. So if you want to just pull out one specific element of any type of text, you can go ahead and create your own regex. And the text that it's actually going to use in order to complete this task is the text here, the output from the text parser. So we just clicked in and we selected the text here from the text parser. And then finally we have update a row. Now this is going to add those email addresses that it found from the text parser and the match pattern here. So we've selected the same spreadsheet as always. the same sheet as always. The row number it's going to add the email address to is the row number from this search rows. So we just selected this box here. Everything else should be filled in. Then in column C, because obviously if you remember, column A is the name of the business, column B is the website. So we want to have the email address in column C. So inside this box, we just selected the email address that was output from the match pattern here, and we click OK. Now this is all set up and ready to run, and we're going to go ahead and test. Remember, we're looking for here marketing agencies in London, and we've requested 50. So let's go ahead and click the run once button. Now you can see these numbers that appear at the top in the white circles here. These are the number of operations that we've used. As I said, this does use a fair amount of operations, but I believe it's a very valuable scenario and a very valuable automation that could be worth potentially lots of money to businesses. So I think the small amount that you would actually pay overall for this is probably worth it in the long run. So we're just going to watch it go through and see what kind of results we get. Now bear in mind, we aren't going to manage to get email addresses for every single business and every single website, because not every website has an email address visible on the landing page, on the URL. Sometimes they have contact forms, sometimes it's hidden away somewhere. So we're just going to go through, and we usually get between, depending on the business type, between 30 to I don't know, 40% of the URLs actually provide us with email addresses. Okay, it looks like this scenario was completed, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the spreadsheet. Okay, so here's what we've got. Let's just expand these columns a bit so we can actually see the data. So as you can see here, we have the list of business names here down the side. If we count them, we've ended up with 50. These are the URLs of the website, and then in the third column we have their contact email addresses. So as you can see, it's a big time saver, because to go through these 50 websites manually and try and locate the email addresses on each, not least actually being able to find 50 businesses in London that are marketing agencies, will probably be difficult enough. So I think this is a really useful automation for B2B cold outreach. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions, comments, any thoughts about this automation, just let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks guys.